Welcome to a very special Wednesday night edition of the Balls Deep Breakdown on the MMA Engine channel. I am Betya, joined by everybody's favorite Uncle Weezy, and fighting this weekend, friend of the channel and back for the second time. I should mention he's 1-0 since being on the MMA Engine channel. Cody Brundage. Cody, how you doing tonight, man? You ready?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Happy to be here. Always good chatting it up with you guys, get my mind off of the fight a little bit, so it's good.
Well, before we start, I have to read an apology from somebody in the community toward you. Anybody watching this knows Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast. And Clint made the mistake when you beat Tresean Gore of saying, well, Cody was losing this fight till he won it. And then, which you were like, and I'm paraphrasing, we're like, yeah, look at the stats, bish. So, and you were right and he was wrong. So he would like to apologize. And this is, I did not make this up. He said these exact words. I'm stupid. You're smart. I was wrong. You were right. You're the best. I'm the worst. And you're very good looking, whereas I'm not very attractive. So those words are from Clint and nowhere else. First time I've ever heard those. And other than that, I am going to pass this off to Weezy to let him do the majority of the interview. And I will come in at the end with some of the questions I have that are not fight specific.
Cool.
Nice, Cody. Well, thanks once again for joining us here. And we broke this down real quick the last time before we started the interview. When I do these fights and I break them down on my channel here on the MMA Engine YouTube channel as well, I go over tail of the tape, experience pro and UFC, finish stats, striking, grappling, strength of schedule, last 5 fights. And we look for ways to find reasons to say that there are paths to victory for either fighter here. And we talk about the stylistic components of the matchup. First thing I want to talk about is Southpaw versus Orthodox. We got Michal as a Southpaw. You're an Orthodox fighter. What does that mean to you? Does that change the way that you train for fights at all?
It doesn't really change the way I'm training too much, but I do, like Dustin's my main training partner. He'll go Southpaw for like the last 3 weeks, and we'll kind of work some Southpaw tactics in terms of like footwork and hand position and just things like that, little things, like nothing crazy to change it up. But just Southpaw tactics, little things that you don't necessarily see all the time. You know, he sees Orthodox fighters all the time, I'm sure. And there's just, unfortunately, not as many Southpaw fighters. So you don't see that look as often. But I got Dustin Jacoby, who I think is a better Southpaw fighter than he is Orthodox fighter. He might disagree with me, but I think he's a little better Southpaw than Orthodox. Really world class at both. So I've had a really good look the last few weeks.
And so another thing that I wanted to ask you, because DJ is such a huge part of your camp, you know, and obviously he's fought Michal before and he's beaten him. So what does that mean to have somebody in your camp who can help you not only by saying what he sees on tape, but he's been in there with Michal. He's felt that pressure. He knows how he digs to the body. He knows that weird herky-jerky style that he brings. How does it help to be at a place like Factory X where you've got a deep bench, you've got a lot of good fighters there, and in this particular case, you've got somebody who has not only been in there with him, but beaten him?
Yeah, it's really good, you know, and I was there cage side for that fight, so I got to see him live speed, live action, and Dustin had a broken foot that fight. He couldn't really kick. He wasn't as dynamic as he normally is, and he hurt him really bad in the second round and almost got the finish and wasn't able to, and kind of gassed himself out and had to dig really deep to go get that win. And I think just confidence-wise is big for me. You know, I have him in the gym, and he's trained with me, and he's been in there with him, and he's like, listen, if you go do you and be yourself, you can win this fight wherever you want to win the fight. And that's just huge for my confidence. You know, I bring Dustin with me everywhere because he's a great training partner, a great friend. But more than that, you know, he's the guy that makes me believe I can do it. You know, when we're sitting backstage and I'm like, man, if I just bolt for the door right now, no one's going to know. He's the guy who's like, no, it's time to go handle business, and we'll go bolt for the door after we get the dub. So he's been a huge addition to my life, my family's lives. And he's just huge for my confidence, man. He's like an older brother to me. And yeah, he's told me, he's like, listen, you go out, do you're going to smash this kid. And so we're kind of talking over some things and before this fight, and I'm excited to get in there. You know, he's got me fired up and ready to go.
I'm sure he does, man. And, you know, I mean, iron sharpens iron. You're in there, you know, every day with these guys, and they're helping you out. You're helping them out. You know, one of the things I wanted to ask you, because, you know, obviously for this particular match, Dustin Jacoby is just a huge, you know, asset to have in your camp here. What do people in your camp come to ask you for help with, Cody? Like, what is something that you're able to go out there and help your opponents with, just like Dustin's helping you in this camp? I'm sure that there's something that you're adding to your teammates' abilities and games.
Yeah, for sure. I think like on the training side and like the skill side, I feel like I help all our guys with a lot of their wrestling defense. You know, Dustin's wrestling defense since me and him been working together has really took off. You don't see guys taking him down and holding him down. And if you break down film, you're like, how do you beat Dustin Jacoby? You got to out wrestle him. You got to take him down. You're not very few guys in the division are going to outstrike Dustin Jacoby. So there's a reason that guys haven't been able to do that. And a lot of it is us working together and growing from each other. There's a reason I'm knocking dudes out. And that's because I'm working with Dustin Jacoby. There's a reason that guys aren't taking him down, and that's because he's working with me. And so I feel like I bring that aspect. And then I also, I feel like on the mental side of things, I feel like I'm just a good time, man. I feel like I'm an easy vibe, and I make, like, Dustin gives me confidence, but I just make people feel easy. I make them laugh. You know, I'm a shit talker. So I'm just a good vibe to have around for camp. And, you know, my team is truly like my family, and I try to bring that, what I would with my family, which is I'm the entertainer of my family. So I try to bring that to the guys. And that's nice on fight week, man, because it's stressful and you have a lot of anxiety and you don't necessarily want to be thinking about everything you're going to do in this fight or the repercussions. And you kind of want to just a moment to relax sometimes. So I think I bring that to the table mentally for sure.
If I may add something, you talk about the striking, because you and I talked about this right after the last fight with Gore. Not a lot of fighters use this, and I love this move. Those little short elbows you were throwing, standing up, like, disguised really well. Unscoutable. I mean, there's no tape on you doing it. So I love that little wrinkle you added to your game. Like because you landed, I think 100. Like, I don't think you missed one of them.
Yeah,
like, they were all getting through.
Yeah, those were something that, like, I feel like at Factory X, our big thing is we just try to be as dynamic as possible. So we're just trying to, whether it's elbows or kicks or takedowns, or we just try to be so unpredictable and dynamic that it's hard to game plan and it's hard to deal with. You know, if someone can beat you in a multitude of ways, it's a lot harder to prepare for than someone who's just going to come out and box you or just going to come out and kickbox or whatever. So those elbows were definitely something we added to the game, and I got some new tricks that we'll add for this fight as well. You know, people forget I've only been a pro, I think I went April 2019, so a little over 3 years, which isn't a ton of time. You know, I'm getting
3 years, 7 months, 22 days, Cody. I've got it right on my spreadsheet.
That's right. Yeah, so not a very long time compared to some of these guys, and so I feel like that allows me to make huge growth in between fights. You know, I last time I fought was July. It's been 5 months. You're going to see a whole different Cody Brundage, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and that's another thing. You're only 28 years old, and this is a division where you're going to have a little more longevity age-wise than you would if you were a bantamweight, a flyweight, a featherweight, or something like that. So I always say whenever I'm breaking down fights, you look at those guys with the number 24, 25, 26, 27, they make those big leaps in between fights. And for somebody like you mentioned, less than a 4-year mixed martial arts career at this point, and you've already got 2 wins at the UFC level, and you've already got 10 professional fights, but you are at an experience deficiency here. You know, Michal's got 23 professional fights, 156 minutes of cage time. He's been in the UFC cage 5 more times than you, about 40 more minutes than you. But it's all about the game plan. It's all about finding those ways to make yourself comfortable and your opponent uncomfortable. And we talk a lot about fight IQ, Cody. It's so important. And as gamblers, right? So I think there's a lot of parallels between a winning gambler and a winning fighter, because a winning gambler doesn't necessarily look at who's going to win the fight. They look at all of the components of the fight, and then they say, where is the line? Because the line gives you an implied probability, and then from there you could build your own percentage chance that you think the fighter's going to win the fight, or it's going to go over 2.5 rounds or whatever. But you have to do the same exact thing, because you could either choose to have really hard fights or you could choose to have easier fights. And talk to us about decision-making and what amount of your preparation goes into decision-making for a particular opponent, in this case, Michal Oleksiejczuk.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, you know, first off, the decision to take the fight, it comes to my manager first. My manager brings it to my coach. And then if they feel good about the matchup, it gets to me. So that's kind of the system we have. And I like that, because as a fighter, you know, my job is to say yes. And I'm always going to say yes. So I have guys that are looking out for me. And if they don't like the matchup, I won't even hear about it. So I like that it goes through that channel. Some guys would rather have more say. I trust my coaches and my management to make sure I'm getting good fights, not easy fights by any means. You know, I don't take easy fights. There's a reason I've never been a favorite in any of the fights I've taken, and that's because I fight tough guys. And I like that. You know, I don't have an issue with that. I think I rise to the occasion. But in terms of
that's going to change at some point very soon, by the way.
I hope, man. We'll see. I'm not worried about it. I'll just keep making my friends money. So I don't mind being the underdog, man. I thrive in that spot. I rise to the level of my competition. And yeah, Michal's tough, man. It's not an easy fight. I didn't take the fight because I thought it was easy. I thought matchup-wise it was a good matchup. On paper, his biggest deficiency is probably my strongest thing. And I think the discrepancy between my wrestling and his wrestling is much greater than the discrepancy between his striking and my striking. So I felt like on paper it's a good fight for me. In terms of game planning, you know, like I said, we do little things like southpaw tactics for a guy like this. But, you know, while I think Michal is really good, man, I think he's solid. He's got good body work. He has good boxing. He has great pressure, good head movement. He's not dynamic. He's not going to kick. He's not going to switch his stance. He's not going to clinch. He's not going to wrestle. So that makes it an easier fight to game plan for. It's like, okay, well, if I can avoid these few things that he's really good at, then I can win the fight. And, you know, there's obviously in the bigger weights, especially, there's a chance that no matter what happens, you might get clipped and lose. That's just the sport, you know, and that doesn't have to do with who's better or not better. And, you know, that's definitely a possibility, but I feel like if I can avoid the big shot, I have more ways to win the fight than Michal does. So that's why I took the fight. You know, I like the matchup, and I felt that way with Dolce, and I felt that way with Tresean. With Dolce, I felt like if he didn't knock me out, I could knock him out. I could decision him. I could sub him. I feel like I could win in every way. Same with Tresean. If Tresean didn't knock me out, I could beat him in every single way. And I kind of feel the same with Michal. You know, I think he presents a little bit different of a problem in terms of like he could win a fight off pressure alone if you let him, like he did against Modestas. I feel like he lost that fight, but he won because he had Modestas on the back foot. So appearances win fights sometimes, and that's why he got the nod there. But I still feel like I can beat Michal in any way, and I feel like the way he beats me is gets the decision off pressure. So there you got to stop the pressure, or he catches me with a big shot and puts me out. And so I like those odds, man. I'll take those. I got a big hard head and a good chin, and I can strike with people. I can wrestle with people, and I can definitely find a submission. So I like it.
Yeah, man. And I mean, like the scouting report on this fight, when I'm looking at all the stats in front of me, and I can tell you right now that Michal Oleksiejczuk has been taken down by 3 men in the UFC. Those men were Jimmy Crute, Dustin Jacoby, and Ovin St. Preux. They also happen to be the only 3 fights that he's lost in the UFC level. So he's undefeated when he doesn't get taken down, and he doesn't have any wins when he does. So right there, you're seeing something. If I was your manager, I would have absolutely jumped at this opportunity. I know Michal's got vicious pressure. That's going to be very difficult to deal with. That dude rips to the body. That's going to be difficult to deal with. He's very unorthodox in the way that he moves. That's going to be difficult to deal with. But as from a scouting perspective, if I'm your coach, I'm saying, look, man, if you meet this guy in the middle, if you shoot takedowns, if you start an up and down game here, like I would be making you watch the Jimmy Crute Oleksiejczuk fight every fucking night before you went to bed, because Crute shot a takedown in the first 5 seconds. He chain wrestled the entire time. And after the 7th takedown, you could tell Michal was tired, and he let both of those shoulder blades hit the ground. And before you knew it, he locked up that Kimura, and it was over. But I saw him break when Jimmy wouldn't fuck off and wouldn't stop wrestling him. And when I see your fights, Cody, I see the exact same possibility. I see the exact same skill set. You don't have to beat him the way that Dustin beat him. You've actually got an easier way to beat him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I said, I feel like my strongest skill is his weakest. And listen, I'm sure he's made improvements to that takedown defense. I just feel like, you know, you came down to 185 and you fought Sam Alvey, which, no offense to Sam Alvey, that's not the Sam Alvey of 5 years ago. No. You know, and not Sam Alvey used to be a dog. He used to be tough out, and that's not who he is anymore. And I'm a big, strong, young dude, just like Michal at 85, with good wrestling, relentless pressure, and I could very much see the fight going the way the William Knight fight went. And if I get on top of him like I got on top of William Knight, you guys can just cash my second check because that'll be the ball game, man. I promise you. If I get both hooks in, it'll be problems, and it'll be a short night for me. And I really think I can get to those positions. And like you said, if I'm relentless and I stick with it, he will concede the position. Maybe not right away.
Yeah.
But it's just being relentless for a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and then he concedes the position, and then he really doesn't have much for you once you do that. And even when he gets back to his feet, because I'm pretty sure I watched that Jimmy Crute fight. He got kind of manhandled a little bit for like a minute and a half, and they went back on the feet just for a split second, and you saw the pressure stop. You saw the head movement and the tapping of the feet stop, and the herky-jerky movement stop. So my thing is like, okay, if I just make him do the up-down for a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and be relentless, it completely shifts the striking game. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so that's what kind of I talk about being a little bit more dynamic than him, and how that's going to benefit me is that I don't get tired from the wrestling. You know, everybody was making a lot in that Trayshawn Gore fight. Like, I was so tired. I wasn't tired. I took him down the first 5 seconds just so that he was like, okay, I have to, every time I level change, I have to account for the takedown. And so when I level changed, you'll see right before I knocked him out, I level change. He tries to throw a kick off the level change, knocked him out.
Yeah.
Like that, my wrestling set up everything off that. So, you know, I don't expect it to be an easy takedown, but also I'm relentless and I stick on it. And I think that breaks him, and my pressure on top breaks him. And then I think it becomes a pretty easy night, you know, not that it's an easy fight, but if I can get to my takedowns early, it's going to be a good night for me.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something, man. I lost money on Jimmy Crute 2 times after that Oleksiejczuk fight, because after the Oleksiejczuk fight, I said, man, Jimmy Crute's smart. This guy went out there and he fought a perfect fight against Oleksiejczuk. And then he goes out there and Smitty shuts down his calf. I mean, you know very well about that one. And
Yeah.
Jimmy didn't wrestle at all until that calf got compromised.
Right.
And, you know, Smitty's a guy that's been held down before. And I lost money on him again the next fight after that, where he got knocked out by Jamal Hill. No takedown attempts until he got sparked. And it just goes to show you that you could show good fight IQ in one fight, and you could show bad fight IQ in other fights, and it makes a difference between wins and losses. And those are the win checks you want. You want to stack those wins like flapjacks. That's how you get tougher fights. That's how you make more money. That's how you put together winning streaks like Dustin Jacoby would be on if there weren't moron judges out there in the UFC. And that's another thing, you know, because we saw some very horrible judging here at the end of the last card. And, you know, I wanted to ask you a couple different things. Like, number one, the Rodolfo Vieira fight falls out on fight week. I believe it was Tuesday, right?
Monday morning, yeah.
Yeah. So what does that do to you? I mean, like, Cody, talk us through what happens when you get a phone call, when you've been training for 6 weeks for an opponent, you've been busting your ass, and they call you and tell you it's not going to happen. What goes through your head? What goes through your teammates' heads? What happens?
Yeah, so I did a 14-week camp for that.
Oh.
And yeah, so imagine going to work, clocking every day for 4 months, 3.5 months. And then at the end of that, they're like, hey, we're not going to pay you, but stick around, keep being ready, and maybe we'll pay you again in February, because they weren't going to book me till February. So it sucks, man. Like, financially, it's tough, obviously. And then obviously the work I put in and the people that helped me get there, those guys need to get paid. Right. Like, yeah. They're also missing a paycheck, and they're all like, everybody on my team understands, and they're cool, and they're not like, where's my money? Like, they get it. And they're like, we'll just get ready for the next one. But it's tough to look those guys and be like, hey, I know you gave me a lot of work and helped me a lot this camp, but I can't do anything for you. I can barely do anything for myself. And then just the grind of like, okay, I'm in camp for 14 weeks. I was in camp with Dustin and Josh for their whole fight camp. So those are tough. Like, it's tough when you're in fight camp. The training's different. So I was basically in camp with all those guys. And then with Rob Wilkinson right before he won the PFL title, I was in his main training partner. So it's tough training. Nice. And then you got to turn around and be like, all right, I guess I got to buckle down and sacrifice time with my family and do all this again. And your body's kind of trashed. You're like, man, I was supposed to peak at this point. So it was tough, but I took a little break. I went home for like 3 days to South Carolina, saw my family, did the Thanksgiving thing, and then was back in the gym. And luckily I didn't have to wait till February like they were thinking, and something popped up. But yeah, it was tough. And then, you know, I told them after that fight fell through, I said, listen, if they call and offer me Rodolfo later, I'm not doing it. Like, he's pulled out of half of his UFC. Yeah. His last 6 fights he's had booked, he's pulled out of 50% of them, and I'm not resting my family's financial stability on a guy who's a pullout merchant, and that wasn't an easy fight. I said yes, that was a tough fight. Stylistically, that might have been a tougher fight than the fight I have on Saturday. And, I was willing to fight him. And I never hesitated. As soon as they hit me up with the name, I said, hell yeah, let's do it. And then he pulled out. And so to me, I'm like, listen, I'm 1-0 against that guy. And, he's got some stuff to figure out. And maybe I'll see him down the line, but not for a while. I'm not going through that shit again. If he had just pulled out of one fight, I'd be like, shit happens. But you pull out of half your fights in your last 6, it's like, come on, man. I can't. That's not all right. I've never pulled out of a fight. So
Yeah. And it's such a hard living. And I wanted to ask you, like you go through all this shit. Why fighting, Cody? Why MMA? Why the hell do you do this?
I ask myself that a lot, but I think one of the biggest things for me is it teaches me a lot about myself, and not necessarily with the wins and the losses, because like I said, the sport's crazy and losses can come undeservedly, and they can also just come because you zigged when you should have zagged. But it teaches me a lot about myself, that I can face the fears of getting in the cage. That's a fear for sure. And it teaches me a lot about confronting being uncomfortable, getting better in the sport and getting better in this game is tough. It's not easy. And so to be able to do that and prove it to myself constantly is big for self-growth and self-improvement. And then I also do it because I feel like when my siblings see me, or when my daughter gets older and she sees me and my friends see me, like, I know they're proud of me. My coaches, everybody, they're proud of me. And that's important to me. I like making the people that put a lot of time and energy and effort into me proud and excited. And, they go through the highest and highs and lowest of lows with me. And that's something that not many other professions really offer. I feel like I got so close with so many people, and, one day I won't do this anymore, and I'll be old, and I'll be sitting on the porch with my boys and be like, man, remember all that brain damage we took? That was crazy, and like, remember the trips we had and the experiences we had. And remember when Dolce Luigi and Bula almost put my head in the 4th row for like 4 minutes, and we were able to get a $50,000 bonus out of it? That was some wild shit, so.
You had him right where you wanted him.
Yeah, exactly. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. But it's
never
not
a doubt.
Yeah, to me, it's not about the wins and the losses. It's just, like I said, proving a lot to myself and making me a better person. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud of what I'm doing. I'm proud of the fact that, like, I know I won't ever quit on myself. And I didn't always feel that way. I used to fight because I was like, it's cool, man. It's a cool thing to do. And that's still maybe a little bit of it. But, ever since my daughter came and I got some different perspective in life, I feel like that's kind of changed my reason for fighting, so it's been good.
Nice, man. Lou, you got a question?
Yeah, I have one since it's relevant. We were talking a little bit before the show about some of the judging, and I don't want to put you on the spot with some of that stuff. So I'm going to ask you this. What's your feeling about open judging in MMA? Like, do you think it would work? Do you like it? Does it matter to you at all? Or
when I fought in LFA, it was in Kansas, and we had open judging, and that was cool. I thought it was cool to know the score going into the 3rd round. And I can tell you, I can't speak for every fighter, but I can speak for me and my team, and I can guarantee you that we're finishers. We want bonuses. So if I'm up 2-0, I'm not coasting in the 3rd round. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? That's the quickest way to get your ass beat, is being like, okay, I'm up 2. I guess I'll just not lose. And then that's when you get knocked out. So I know that's a worry for people, is like, well, if they know they're winning, they'll just coast. I'm like, well, probably not, because there's a reason they're winning, right? But the other thing about it, I hate when people are like, I hate judging, don't come with suggestions. I got suggestions, bro. I feel like there should be five judges instead of 3.
all right.
They do that in kickboxing, and it helps tremendously. I think this idea of like, well, from this angle, the fight could have been scored this way, is the biggest load of crap. Like, we have the best view in the house, ESPN Plus. I think they should put them in soundproof rooms, all 5 of them, soundproof rooms, watching it with no commentary, and like away from the fights. And then they could like send in their score virtually or whatever. And I think 2 of the judges to start should be ex-fighters. And I think you'll see a trend that those 2 seem to always get the fight correct. Not always, but more times than not, get the fight correct. And the other 3 might be off. And then as that realization is made, let's make 3 judges ex-fighters and 2 judges, whatever we got whatever the hell we have now, because I don't know what those guys do. But
would you like recommend, what if we, like, I just want to build on your idea because it was good, if we filled these tanks with water as they're judging the fight? To give them,
depending on the scorecard, we fill the tanks with water
to give them a sense of urgency. See,
Patty Pimblett 29-28, send in the water, you know.
That's right. Send in the water and the eels, and then you have a live stream of it.
So this is
send a public message.
This is the last.
This will not be tolerated.
This is the last question I have on my end, and it's more like just kind of go with it how you want. So we're about to head. You're bringing up like that your daughter's coming in the world, had a couple of good fights this year. What do you want 2023 to be? Like, do you have, like, I'm not saying, like, if you want to not call out, but like, are there guys ahead of you that you're interested in fighting, like, out of your next 1 or 2 fights? Like, is it just about improving the skill set, your guys in the gym? Like, where do you want to be at the end of next year? Like, other than being interviewed on this channel multiple times more.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. I think just keep hiding behind my wins, man. I feel like I'm making such big improvements, and if I go beat Michael, I think he's ranked like 21 at my weight class right now, so that puts me in line by the end of 2023 to kind of bust into the top 15. And if I can hide behind my wins and continue to get better, I feel like I belong there, man. I feel like I can hang with those guys. I feel like I am pretty well rounded. I'm athletic, I'm fast, good cardio, can wrestle, and that's tough to deal with at 185. So yeah, I want to fight 3 or 4 times in 2023. I think 3 times is pretty active. 4 would be amazing, but 3 is pretty active and gives me an opportunity to get better in between fights. And yeah, more visits on the show. But I don't really have names, man. I feel like I always get tough fights, and I'm cool with that. That's not a problem for me. I don't want easy fights. If you get easy fights, you're punching down. You're going in the wrong direction. And I'm not worried. I used to always be bothered that I wasn't a favorite, but I realized at that Tresean Gore fight, I was like, listen, if I'm not a favorite against Tresean Gore, I'll never be a favorite in the UFC ever. Because not any shade on Tresean, but like, he was a 3-1 guy.
Experience level, sure.
You know, yeah. And like, I'm not going to be more experienced than anyone but him maybe in the UFC. And just matchup wise, I thought it was a no brainer. I was going to beat that kid, but whatever, you know. So I was like, that used to always bother me. So I'm not worried about being the underdog, and, you know, I'll get tough fights, and that'll be good. I'll keep proving the people that believe in me right, and the people that don't, you know, eventually they'll figure it out.
So your answer is, like, I'm sorry to say it's wrong because I haven't like, I should have said there's a correct answer here. The correct answer was handing Bo Nickel his first defeat as a professional by the end of 2023. That was that's the one I had written down. So to me, it was the correct answer here. And then
that'd be nice. That'd be a good fight.
And then while we're on that topic, this kind of brings the last 2 questions together. Like, you know, we've talked about like the open scoring. Like I'm not saying there's anything, like, I don't want to say there's anything wrong with the sport, because like, this is my first year covering it, like, in this medium as an old man. I know Weezy's been covering it for a few years. Like, I love what we do. I love that we get to interact with like a couple of fighters. We get to talk about the sport year round. Are there any changes you want to see the sport make, either in the cage, out of the cage? Like, any rules that you think are like maybe archaic, like just anything you can think of to maybe advance the sport a little more, like, as we go on?
I think judging, I know we kind of harped on it a little bit. I think judging just needs to be addressed. You know, we've been talking about, it isn't a new issue, the judging, you know, and I think commissions run on like this good old boy system of like, you know, you get.
No.
And we lost him.
No.
So you get.
Hey, there he is. Right.
Sorry.
I thought we were on WebEx again.
Yeah. So you get screwed on a decision, and they're like, well, just appeal it. And then you go appeal it, and you're appealing it to the guy who screwed you's best friends. And, you know, obviously you don't win the appeal. And people are like, well, why didn't you just appeal it? Or why didn't you win the appeal? You must really lost. And they don't understand that it's just a circle. You know, they're never going to admit that, oh, we kind of effed this up and we owe you one, you know? And so I feel like that needs to change. I don't know how you change that, you know, I guess like right to your legislation, but like MMA fans aren't doing that. But really, that would be the way to do it, right? You'd have to write to your legislation and be like, hey, there's some real corrupt crap going on, and it's costing people lots of money and time. And, you know, so I feel like that is something that would really improve the sport as well if they would fix that. I feel like that's people's biggest gripe probably is the judging. But then what else could help the sport? I think like bringing like in terms of like getting eyeballs on the sport, keeping like kind of what they're doing, like bring in these crossover superstars like Bo Nickel or like they're doing the same with Gordon Ryan this week. Like they need to do more things like that just because you get more eyes on the sport. And, you know, with when you don't have guys like Conor McGregor and things like that to bring eyes to the sport, you got to do everything you can to bring other fan bases and things like that. And, you know, they're the best business people out there. They're going to figure it out. And I'm sure they'll figure that out. And then also healthcare. That would be cool.
Yes.
That would be pretty dope. But, you know, they're going to do what they want to do. But healthcare, I don't even care about the pay so much because like my boy Dustin Jacoby always says, winning solves everything. So you'll get paid more as long as you keep winning. But healthcare would be a big one. So
yeah,
that's something else that you guys don't get that. But, you know, like they say, it's an opportunity. And in some cases, it's an opportunity to get screwed by corrupt judges. And one of the ideas that I had, Cody, would be that, and I think this would be perfect because a lot of people come out and say, like, after that Paddy Pimblett fight, they're like, well, you know, maybe they were judging on damage. And it's like, no, man, they got paid. You know, they got paid off. I mean, there's nobody that's been, you know, to mixed martial arts events for the last 10 years that's been judging fights professionally that could give Paddy Pimblett that fight. So my idea is that you get 10 judges, right? And they're going to work the event and you take a hopper and you pick them out 5 minutes before the fight starts. And you say, judge number 1, judge number 6, judge number 8, get to the table. You're judging this fight.
yeah.
And that way you'd have to pay off 10 judges instead of just 3 in order to have this corruption, because a lot of times people start making excuses for the judges. And I just think that there's no excuse. There's no excuse for, you know, some of these scorecards that have happened. It just goes to show that there's probably corruption.
Well, I saw that thing with like, I don't want to say any names, but one of the judges, I saw a story kind of recently that like he's been known to judge fights according to what he thinks the promotion wants to happen. And he's not even getting paid off. He's just like, I'm going to do him a favor, which is even scarier. Like, bro, if you want to get your bag, I mean, I think it sucks. And if I'm on the wrong end of it, I'll really think it sucks. But whatever, get your bag. But if you're just doing it for free because you're like, this would look better on paper, like you're a giant piece of shit. So like, I don't know if that's true, but that is what the paper showed. That's what the scoring showed, is that when it came to fights that, I mean, I guess you can't technically say like the promotion wants this person to win, but we all know how that is. And so I mean, if you're scoring it incorrectly for the guy the promotion wants to win 9 out of 10 times, there's probably an issue there, you know? So I don't know. I don't know how it gets addressed. Like I said, every week people are like, how the fuck did you score that? And, you know, and then next week they forget about it. And then they're like, again, this judge, but then it just dies down. And so I don't know how to fix it. You know, it sucks, man. It sucks for people I don't even know, but when I see it happen to like my friends or my buddies, and, you know, it's really tough. And I see, you know, and my heart hurts for them. So I hope they figure it out. And I feel like as a whole, that's how you fix the sport. That's how you get more viewers. That's how you make people more interested, because then it's less WWE and more, you know, what it's supposed to be. So,
and that's why I asked you, Cody, why you do this. So it's simply because like those kind of things can happen, you know, and, you know, like you said, how many weeks in camp were you for Vieira when he pulled out?
14.
14 weeks. And can you imagine if you beat him like Gordon beat Pimblett and they came out 29-28, unanimous decision, Cody? We unanimously decided that you're not getting a win check here. So, you know, for you have my respect. Everybody that you work with, Mark and Dustin and Anthony Smith and all the friend and all those guys, the amount of work what the passion that you put into your occupation is inspiring. And I want you to know that, you know, us fans, we really, really appreciate what you do, win or lose, brother.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate that.
Now, before we let you go, what's the official prediction? And I don't want to sass you on air, but I can't let this go without saying the last time we had you said, oh yeah, round 1 submission, just like last time. And I'm like, all right, awesome. And then, you know, Let's just say that you lied. You lied. So I already have written down what I think is going to happen, but I want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
I think, sub, either 1 or 2, man. I think it comes early and, no promises. I'm going to be honest, I didn't expect to knock Tresean Gore off my back foot.
No, we're not those guys that, like, harass you. Like, we're not one of those guys that harass you. Like, but
you're just happy for me to get it done. But for real, I was like, I'm going to sub this kid. And then I knocked him out on 1 foot, which I didn't expect to happen. So
did you or did you not, for the record, did you or did you not, like 15 minutes after your fight, DM me out of nowhere and be like, hey, man, sorry. Did you or did you? And I was like, why are you even talking to me? Go have a beer. Like, you just won. Like, I wrote down round 2 submission because it pays more than round 1 submission.
Yeah, I do. I think I find a sub.
You know something about me, so that's how I bet.
Hell yeah. I think I find a sub, though, for sure. I just think that the wrestling will be a little bit too much. And like Weezy said, I just feel like if I can keep the pace, it gets tremendously easier for me to find the submission because he will kind of wilt a little bit under that pressure.
Both of you guys work in very similar ways, Cody, in that pace is a weapon for him and pace is a weapon for you. But it's his striking and volume and pressure. That's the pace that he works with. It's the up and down in the wrestling that you bring. And I think that that's going to make you look like you should have been a favorite in this fight. I've already got a bet on you, but it's because there's a path for Cody Brundage to win this fight.
I was pretty shocked that I was such a big underdog. I won't lie.
Just because a lot of people that do what we do, Cody, are on you this week. Believe me, there's a lot of people who don't think that slime makes sense.
We like that. We like that you are that big.
I mean, I figured I would be an underdog for sure. Don't get me wrong. Like, the experience is such a huge factor, and he's dangerous. He's good. He's a game opponent. In a lot of people's eyes, they see it as a short notice fight for me. But I just felt like, with Tresean, he's shown that he has pretty good wrestling defense. He can get back to his feet when taken down, and he can knock people out on the feet. Pretty dynamic striker. And then with Dolce, he's just a beast. He can get up off the ground if he gets taken down. Other than like gassing a little bit, he brings things to the table that I was like, okay, especially coming off a loss to Maximov, I could see why I was not a huge underdog, but was an underdog. And just with him, I'm like, man, I feel like I'm the best wrestler he's ever fought. And, he's shown that to be his weakest thing. So I was kind of shocked how big of an underdog I was. But like I said, I don't worry about that shit too much.
I can't remember who it was, but I'm pretty sure somebody was going off on Twitter about betting you by submission against Dolce. I can't remember who it was. Not quite sure personally who that was, but
he deserves a shout out, huh?
He probably deserves. Maybe he'll have his own channel one day. Who knows? But Cody, thank you so much for coming on. Like, we obviously wish you the best this weekend in your fight, and also a happy holiday, whatever holiday you celebrate, and a Christmas. Happy New Year. Please tell. Yeah, I mean, I'm Italian, of course. I celebrate Christmas. But
same.
But you're Italian. Brundage is not a very Italian name.
No, my grandma's name's Salerno.
I was hoping like Brundage would have been like a Salerno's great.
She's Sicilian, so.
Attaboy. Tell the people where they can find you, what to look for, anything you want to promote.
It's Cody_Brundage_ on Instagram, and then Cody Brundage 185. And I just want to shout out my team, Factory X, Iridium Sports, and my wife. Love them. Wouldn't be here without them. And we're gonna get the job done on Saturday, and then enjoy Christmas. Can't wait.
We are very excited for this weekend, and not just for your fight, but more importantly, I could speak for Weezy and I. We are excited to not do content for a month.
There you go.
We are very excited. We are excited. I can only go work 2 jobs now. Now I can go back to my usual 2 jobs and not have to prepare content. Well, dude, it's been our pleasure. Weezy, anything you want to say on our way out here?
Thank you, Cody, for taking the time to speak with us and the MMA Engine audience. We appreciate you, and we're looking forward to seeing you scrap on Saturday, brother.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate you.
Take care, man. Guys, thank you for listening. Bye.
All right, later.